Livingston, we must say we are,
for you to
Livingston, I must say we are painfully trying to listen to your insightful discussion, but it is still breaking. But previously where you were seated, it was better.
When I seated,
sorry?
It was better.
Yeah, it was better, and we are getting
So
it.
the comments, really, those are the points. Yes, sorry about this.
Mm-hmm.
And
okay, maybe if you could listen, I'm going to pose a few questions, maybe that you could answer if you can listen. In your discussion, how were you able to deal with outsourcing and having these employees or the team that you're working with in your previous businesses? How easy was it to handle the few internal employees vis-a-vis outsourcing a number of other services from other people? Livingston?
I can listen to you. Yes, I can. I can.
Oh, we must say we are still not getting exactly what you're saying, Livingston.
Is connected and see if I can answer at least one.
Livingston, say that again. Try and we'll see if we can hear you.
Saying,
yeah,
question quite clearly.
Did you hear what I said? What I asked earlier? Oh, sorry. As we wait for Livingston maybe to reconnect and clear his audio, maybe I could go back to Eric. Eric, my question maybe that would be the last question to you as I wait for others to bring in their questions would be, the pandemic came and brought an environment that all of us had to adapt to, working from home, working remotely, and etc. And most of the startups probably, actually it's not probably, but what's clear, it is evident that they were not ready for all this, that now there are a few instances where they are now meeting and they now need to work online, maybe use the tools that are available, the Slack, the Zoom calls that we are doing, and etc. Going forward, we see that there's going to be change in all kind of processes or activities that we businessmen and ladies are involved in. But things now have to be done differently. What is your probably kind of advice or your take on the environment that has changed and we need now to change our working kind of relationship or arrangements or processes? Eric?
The question was, what is my...
What is your take, or what could be your take or your advice to our startups that now have to change their processes or working relationships, maybe by using the available tools to be able to work efficiently, much as the physical touch is going to be lost in a way, but in order to keep that touch, that kind of relationship, that togetherness that is now not as efficient as it was because of the pandemic?
Yeah. Long term, the jury's still out. Short term, I feel that startups have to embrace the technologies that are there to support this, to support them through this time. Like you mentioned a couple of those tools there, and there are a number of tools. There are a number of tools, and I'm discovering tools all the time, and I'm happy to share those tools. And you know, I can share that with you to share with the participants. But the thing is, what you'll find is that there are no experts in this field, but what some people have said, is that what this has done was just rush forward the technology that was always there, that we were going to have to embrace anyway as time went on.
Yeah.
Is Livingston coming back?
Yeah, I see him. I see him on.
Livingston, welcome back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you? Okay. Hear about the. Can I go ahead?
Please go ahead. We don't know where you're going to start from, but we really missed your insights. Yeah.
So it's all about this. So it's all about this. So the point that Eric, finish up your sentence, please.
So I was just saying essentially that the question was, what is the way
Eric,
forward?
finish.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Eric, finish up your sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I was just finishing anyway, it's fine. I was just basically saying startups, as well as all entrepreneurs and businesses in every sector, where at the moment we have to embrace the technologies that support us in doing business in the new normal. The new normal has just come forward earlier. It was always going to happen that people stop spending money, so much money on transport, in terms of just having one meeting, 2 meetings, getting on airplanes, taking trips all over the world. We were always going to come to this situation whereby we would support the environment, especially in terms of carbon emissions, by going online and having these meetings and embracing more technology. So I feel that it is the new normal. A number of companies have said they're not going back to the old ways, what is now called the old ways, of hiring people all across the world and so on, and moving them and their families. I know a number of banks, for example, they hire people from anywhere in the world, they transport them halfway across the continent to do a job they could do from home or from their home cities. So really what it's done is just brought forward what was going to happen anyway. It's done it in a drastic way. It's upset a lot of organizations. It's upset startups because there are financial costs to it. Internet isn't ready for it in every area, but it's the new normal. We have to embrace it. And I'm happy to share a number of tools that will support startups during this period. So please continue, Livingston, while we've got you.
Okay. No, kind of, there was a question I was asked about outsourcing, and it is something that I actually used in my first business, Clean Concert. We were cleaning laundry for hotels and curtains, but we never had our own equipment. And so a big chunk of our production was outsourced. So we actually internally developed codes and processes to manage this and manage customer expectation. So as a startup, it's probably better that you try to look into outsourcing. What are the goods that you must deliver, but you don't have the equipment to use? What are some of the value that you need to create, but you don't have the entire stack that you need to be able to deliver this particular value? So outsourcing is important. I managed it well. And incidentally, I can safely say it took us 5 years to buy our own fully commercial laundry equipment, but we have never been as profitable as we were when we were outsourcing. That's my experience.
Awesome. I'm very sure participants missed your last 2 points, which you were making after you had come back. I don't know if you still have them offhand to bring them back in.
Yeah, so the last 2 points I was making was, one was that every business is in the business of creating value and delivering it to the market so that they can exchange it for the value that they seek from the market. And that process could be defined as marketing or sales. And we tend to view that sales is a function of one department in the company, of one section. But when you're building a team, it's better to build a team that sees as delivering value to the customer, which we call marketing, as part of everybody's job. It's part of everybody's job description, so that we can work in tandem. We know if nobody, just like Peter Drucker says, that if there is no innovation and there is no sales, nothing else happens in the company. So this is actually a proven goal. So when you're building your team, let everybody know that we exist to serve a client, especially in the service industry. This is something that you need to emphasize to be able to deliver value. The last point that I made, that you need to know when you're putting your team together, what strategy are you working on? Because a team, if you have a complex organization, you are managing a team today. Let's look at it as a football team. You're managing the team that is playing today, but you also need to manage a team that will play tomorrow, the one that will come after the one that you have. And the seeds of greatness of tomorrow are built in the seeds of today. So in other words, you have to know what is the strategy that you're bringing to the table as you're piecing your team together. A team that can function in a knockout phase, when you need to survive a war situation, a crisis situation, might not do better when the markets have stabilized. And now you need to build a legacy systems to take it, to propel it another 20 years. So it's a question of what strategy are you delivering on with your team? And does your team know the strategy you're working on? Thank you.
Great. I love that, and I like that. But in that similar angle, Eric and Livingston, I would want you to give your insights about training our team. Maybe it may not be from the beginning, but later on. I've looked at how we have our teams as startups and innovators and businessmen and ladies, but we want to keep the team the way it is. We lack the reskilling and upskilling processes that would probably make our team much better. We have someone on board, yes, he's skilled, he knows some of these things, maybe he's doing coding on the IT department, he does that. But as Eric said earlier, technologies are emerging, things are coming out every day and every day and every day. So what's your take on the upskilling and the reskilling of our teams to improve their efficiency and performance at the end of the day? Maybe we could start from Eric and then Livingston can take it on.
Yeah, I think as an entrepreneur, you never stop learning. You should never stop learning. The team should never stop learning. It's continuous development, whether it's the product, whether it's your mindset, whether it's your technologies. It's continuous production. You never stop. You never stand still in any area as an entrepreneur. Yeah. Once you stand still, you're going backwards. So I think it's important to skill and upskill continuously. And to go on to the point that Livingston was making about outsourcing, yeah, you don't always have to upskill your team to the extent that they can't do much more. Yeah, you bring in the resources, you bring in an expert in a particular area, because you don't always have that time to actually upskill to an expert level if you have to deliver a product in a short period of time or a service. So you bring in the resource as and when needed. You don't always have to upskill your team in every area. Identify the areas that are critical to your business and continuously develop those areas in every way possible. And where you cannot do that, or where it's not viable, you bring in that server, you bring in that resource. So I'll go on to Livingston. I'm sure he's got a lot more to say on that as well.
Now, I could go on, but I think the mistake we make is that delivering, we tend to have it in our mind that delivering value is very complicated. And so we should teach complicated skills to our team members in order to impress. Sometimes impressions are not what actually works. What we need is to find creative ways, simpler ways, simpler tools to deliver, and make the work more enjoyable. Make the work part of us. Let's wake up in the morning getting fired to go and work. How do I motivate my team to really love what they do, that they get to a point where they could even do it for free? So in other words, I'm for less complexity in the workplace. If the work becomes too complicated, unless you are you're trying to deliver weapons or things that are complicated. But most of the things we do, apart from the people that work in technology, things that support, even technology is about simplifying stuff. So if you're looking at your team, always try to innovate and see what is a simpler way of delighting our customer.
Awesome.
Agree.
Thank you.
Awesome. Great. Now, again, Eric and Livingston, I have another question for you. I know entrepreneurs as people who want to do things very fast. They don't want to waste time on some of the processes that probably other businessmen and ladies do. And from maybe the lean startup kind of approach, you do things, go to the market, and continue and go without having these bureaucracies that we see in government and etc. Now, we've also seen some of our startups get interested in coming up with an advisory board, with, governing boards, maybe with a coaching team, with mentors and etc. What do you think is the role of the mentors, the coaches, the advisory board to maybe the performance or the building of a strong team for our startups? Would you encourage them anyway?
If I go first, my mentor, one of my mentor and one of my investors, are of the view that unless you're looking at raising Series B, probably at angel stage and at seed round, you don't need a board. That's their view, and I tend to buy that view. That you do not, unless you really are going after a very complex problem, you're looking at raising lots of money. So, but coaches and mentors, I am in for people that can talk to you, people that you look out for, and people that can advise. For advisory purposes, yes. But for this formal board where you have people that meet every quarter to make decisions, it hasn't worked well for our startups, at least the ones that are still doing turnover of about 100 million Uganda shillings.
Eric, what's your take?
My take on coaching and mentorship is it adds value. It adds value to the entrepreneur. It keeps them on track in terms of goal setting, reaching KPIs and so on. And there's something I've heard as well about coaching is you have people like Ronaldo, you have Messi, yeah? As good as they are, they don't operate without a coach. And it's true for any tennis player. And if you look in businesses, you look at the best business leaders we've had over the years. You look at Bill Gates, you look at Steve Jobs, they all had coaches, business coaches. They wouldn't waste their time having coaches if there was no reason. So there is value in coaching and mentorship. And if you're not sure about that, then contact Livingston or myself. We'll offer coaching for a short period, mentorship for a short period, and you'll see the value in it in the short period, I'm sure. What do you think, Livingston?
I agree with you. Even me, I still have a mentor, and you could call me, I'm seasoned, I've been in the trenches for longer, but I have people that I look out for and whose opinions count when I'm trying to do something.
Likewise, absolutely.
Great. Thanks so much, Eric and Livingston. So I would want to welcome questions, maybe about 3 of them from our participants as we near the end of today's session. I'm already about 5 minutes into your time as well scheduled. So I will ask our participants to raise their questions. And as they do that, I will have also a few questions from my end to conclude this. Let's start with Julius. Julius, your question.
Thank you, Gilbert. Sorry about last time. I think I hadn't unmuted my microphone. Now, I just want to just add on to some of the things the people have added, Mr. Livingstone and Mr. Eric. You see, when you're hiring most startups, startup teams, mostly the founders usually are also the staff when they're starting out. And one of the best ways, us as Able State, our startup that we run, we basically first relied on our skills and what we know and competence and what we had done before. run the thing ourselves. And mostly we are using our own time and money and everything. On top of that, actually, we are using sweat equity. Now we realize that it really comes to a point whereby you need to get people on board. And one of the things that we did was outsourcing, which Mr. Livingston has talked about, which is very, very key, especially if the founders also have some source of money, sources of money, maybe a job, a full-time job, or something they are doing on the side, so that they can feed some money into the what? The startup, like paying for some fees for the contractors. But if the startup is not making enough money, then you have to rely on yourselves to do most of the work, like social media marketing. If one of the people on the team is a good person who is a professional with the experience, he can take up most of the key activities. Maybe the startup is into software development or skilling people. Then a person on the team, one of them could be a very good software trainer, something like that. So we are using our skills and backgrounds to run it. Now, the other thing I have to ask is that when you are actually using sweat equity to also help you create a team, a co-founders team, how do you, can I say, quantify financially sweat equity? Because you realize that most of the people may be working, but they don't know their worth. They don't know what they are putting into the startup. So there's that energy that is used, but how do you quantify it? Thank you.
Well, Eric, do you want to take that?
So how do you quantify the value of the employee? Is that the question?
Equity.
The equity.
How do you quantify the energy put into the startup, the time, and that mostly from the co-founder's side?
Eric, did you get that?
I'm not sure. The value of what exactly? Equity.
How do you quantify the sweat equity during the while starting up, mostly from the founder's side, because you realize that you may be doing work but you're not getting any payment, etc. So how do you quantify that time, energy you put into the startup at the start, you as founders?
Eric, I think I can add something to that.
Yes.
I've met a few innovators, let's say a few founders of a number of these startups. And whenever you sit him or sit her down and you're asking, if today you decided to sell off your business at this stage, how much would you ask for? And then you find that they cannot easily quantify their business, because some of them have been putting in their time, their money, and etc., but it is not quantified. It cannot be put into a certain figure. So I think that's what the previous Julius is trying to ask about.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
There are a number of ways to value a company, but unfortunately, the person's physical input into the company, the energy they've used, isn't one of those things that you use to value an organization or a company. Yeah. There are a number of things we can look at in terms of, you know, the income generated, the expenditure. We hello.
Go ahead, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so there are a number of things that you look at. These things are rigid. They're known. These are known outputs that the company generates, known inputs into the company, the potential clients and so on. So those are the things that they look at to actually give an organization a value. Unfortunately, and I've experienced it, is that the energy of a person isn't one of those things that they look at in terms of quantifying the value of an organization. You can look at it from an employee perspective as how much would you pay an employee in that position? That's the closest you can get to that. And again, what energy one employee puts in isn't going to be the same You can have an accountant that dedicates 16 hours a day. It's still going to get the same income as someone who does the full 8 hours. So it's a difficult one. Hello, I can't hear.
My take on Julius's question is a simple one, is that the person that works full-time should have a share in the business, because the way businesses create value, and if you're successful, the multiplier is sometimes 10 or 100x. So really, salary-wise, get paid what you should pay an employee, and the rest is vested equity within the business. If it works, you'll be able to release that equity at a particular date. But the point is that if you being called to take a lower salary for a business that is expected to grow, then you have to ask for that equity to compensate for the salary that you are foregoing. That's the summary.
Sorry, Gilbert, I can't hear you.
Yes. Thank you, gentlemen.
I was mute. Sorry about that. Kenneth, please put up your question as fast as possible. We are almost closing.
Hello, Gilbert and everyone. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Kenneth.
Yeah, my question is, what should startups in ideal stage should do to survive when the founders have no money to employ skilled labor? This comes in as many investors, capital ventures, especially in Uganda, with my experience, they don't find ideas. They always find already ongoing startup with a well-charming MVP where they see their money or their equity is coming back immediately. Then those already who have the same ideology or business existing, they just only copy from your idea, they implement theirs better. So what should these startups in ideal stage, how should they survive when the founders actually have the idea, but they have no money to employ somebody with money? Thank you.
That's a good one. Wow.
Kenneth, I loved your question, if I were to go first, but I'm going to disappoint you, and I'm sorry, I tend to be a brutal guy. Ideas are worthless. If you come to me and you have a brilliant idea, ideas are worthless. What counts is called execution. And that word, in another word, means death. If you can't execute, you are executed. You are dead. So in other words, if you are between life and death, you can't execute, you are in trouble. That's why people fund people that can execute, not necessarily the idea. So if you come to me and you tell me I have a brilliant idea and I can execute on it, all I need is ABC, I can listen to you. But if you say to me I have a wonderful idea, do you think it will work? Can you fund me? I am not going to talk to you. Or if I don't listen to you, I will tune out and try to do something else. Maybe somebody else can add on.
So I agree, and I'll add just a little more to that, is in that I've worked with a number of investors in Uganda, and the fact is they want to see that you've attempted to execute. They want to see that you've tried to borrow from the bank, you've borrowed from friends and family, that you've raised, even if it's just enough to start yourself. They want to see that you've put in that effort, you have that ability. The idea alone is not enough for someone to give you their money in the hope, and it's complete hope, maybe a dream that you can execute. It doesn't prove, an idea in itself doesn't prove that you can execute. And the fact is, we all have several ideas a day. There's no reason why someone should come and invest in your idea. There are several people with ideas. There are thousands daily that have ideas that sound excellent. You're not going to share an idea that you think is going to fail. You share an idea that you think is going to succeed. Yeah. So the idea is that you think you just yourself believes in the idea, and you want someone else to actually make something of your idea with their finances. the chances of that are very slim. I've met a number of investors here, and that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who's attempted to execute, tried to execute with the little they have, and then they can come and build on that execution. Thank you.
Great. Now, from that particular question, someone in the chat is asking, why is it that most of the startups, and I think I agree with him, most of the startups that have probably progressed do not normally encourage investors investing in their businesses? I'm trying to rephrase his question, but he's asking, why is it that there is less of encouragement for startups to maybe get investment from these investors? Most of them are reluctant to have investors as part of their team or investors investing in their team. Do you want to think that, Eric or Livingston, that it is not worth it currently?
No, so where I've seen that in Uganda is where startups feel that the investors are asking for too much equity in their organization. And that's where I've seen that. And normally a lot of startups do feel that the equity requested for the investment is too high.
Just maybe to add in very quickly, this market hasn't seen exits. So the market has not seen people that are exiting and have done well by investing in a startup. And also on the other side, so the people, whether it's the best way to invest, would not have examples of how people have participated in this. So on one thing, the market believes, I would rather have a small cake and I have it alone. But whether we, the entrepreneurs, are teaching them that build a bigger cake so that the community can have slices. Now, this is a new concept. It's a new concept. And if we do not, especially the generation that now is executing on ideas, one of the goals we have to deliver is to deliver exits to the market that people can see, that you can take $10,000 to the market and create $1 million. If we don't do that, we can't blame them for not funding us. That's the reality.
Wow, wow, wow. Kenneth, do you have any other question? I still see your hand up.
No question, but I had a comment from what the first gentleman said. With my experience, with my experience, I've met up at least with venture capitals, and with our startup, we have already executed. So much of the difficult that is, one, due diligence, even if the value minimum product is there, but what is our way out? Two, let's talk about equity share. Some company wanted 40% from the equity share when they are investing $20,000 US. The idea is good, the startup is executing, but 40% equity share is really something, is like a crocodile swallowing a goat. So, and
sorry?
Kenneth, I hear your pain. Kenneth, I hear your pain. But also, just remember that if someone asks 40%, the question is, what is it dead? What is it worth to you when the business is closed, is dead? What is it worth to you? Is it worth anything? So you have to answer that. And so if they ask for 40%, I will try to counter and I say, if I deliver on these KPIs, will you go back to 20%? Most cases, if someone is interested, they will follow up and they say, if you deliver 10,000, please, then they will bring you back to 20%. I remember I gave out 15% of my business to an investor for $5,000. But later on, 3 years later, we were raising at a valuation of $2-3 million. So this is not for me unusual. The question is, where am I going? If the guy is taking 40%, but we are creating a bigger cake, and I try to tie him as a business. One more thing I want to share to you. Please make relationships from people before you need them. Most of you want to go to face investors when you need money. when things are bad, when you have an order to deliver on. You make relationships before, because the world has not changed. People still invest in people they can call their friends. When my investor calls me, we first talk about our families. And I say, how is your family? How is your wife? How is your son? This is the conversation people want to have. They don't want to start to go straight away. Hey, did the chickens lay the eggs that they promised? Maybe, I'm sorry. But this is the reality of the world. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. And in the next 5 minutes, I want to end this call. And I want to encourage that we continue the conversation over social media and etc. So Albert, you're the last person I'm going to give the opportunity, and then we shall end with the final remarks. Albert?
All right, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Livingstone and Eric. Indeed, it has been very insightful and really, really great.
Yeah,
We've learned a lot. Personally, I've really learned a lot. Now, just on a quick one, I just wanted to ask, usually when you're back to the issue of team building and hiring of the teams, sometimes you're faced with the dilemma of either going for someone who is so much experienced so that you can execute and achieve certain goals within a very short time, but that of course has a high cost to it, or going for people who are just starting out that you're going to pay a little low, and it's going to take you a little longer to attain a specific goal. What would be your advice on that? And then the other thing, I just also want to contribute to Kenneth's comment, but I just posted on the chat. I was just asking, similar to what Livingstone just said, would you own say 60% of say $20,000 USD or 50,000, as opposed to maybe owning would you own like 100% of 20,000 or 50,000 USD, as opposed to owning say 60% of $1 million? So when an investor comes to you, you also value, given what they're going to give you, how is it likely to take the business forward? If its value is going to be much greater, then a smaller percentage would of a bigger value would actually earn you much more than you retaining a whole big maybe 95% of something small. Thank you. Over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. Your question, I don't know if Eric and Livingstone still remember your question. Eric, do you still remember his question?
So the last question was about the share of the equity pie, yes?
No, that was just a comment. My actual question was about the hiring. It was on hiring. When you hire, sometimes you have a project. Okay.
Albert, yes, and I really like your input on this. My take to you is that a business person, an entrepreneur, is what I call an evangelist. He's an evangelist in the sense that he's selling his gospel. If you are starting a church, you need people that are going to play the piano and the singers, whatever it is, you need to get them on your side. In other words, if you have, what are you offering? Can you go and evangelize? You are always failing. Which, if your inability to attract the right team members is also an indictment on you for being able to not to sell your idea properly. So, but you have to balance. How do I balance the people that are coming in with a bit of experience? But most cases start with something that you can do yourself and teach others to be able to do well. This is quite a very deep pocket, and I would want to go in. But I want to comment quickly on somebody that has raised a very interesting question here. And I think it's gone out. He needs to start somewhere. He has a big idea to transport. You have very good ideas. What can I do if I don't get an investment? Please keep knocking on doors. Most of these guys we know that are famous were turned down 100 times before they got anybody to invest. If you can't get your friend to give you his $1 million, why do you expect a guy to come and give you $1 million? Start with the fools, friends, and the family. We call them the three fools. Friends, family, and the people around you. If those cannot be able to listen to you, to give you at least an ability to start somewhere, you're going to struggle to convince people that are outside you. Convince people to buy from you so you can start somewhere. I'm optimistic in spite of my being a brutal guy.
You're not. As you said, it is reality, so we must
All right,
listen to
thank you.
reality.
Welcome, Albert.
Eric,
Yes. I'm in total agreement. You have to evangelize your dream about the business. You have to your team. That's what you do. That's their job. That's your job. And if you're not doing that, then you're not showing the hope, the dream that you have in your idea. Yeah. The idea that you have a business, yeah, that you believe in, yeah, means that you have to sell it. You're constantly selling that idea, yeah. You don't stop selling it. You don't stop hoping. You get your family involved, your friends involved, you know, your associates. Even if you're at work, you know, you get people to invest in you. And then something will happen. Something definite will happen in terms of you realizing that dream.
okay.
Sorry, I wasn't able to hear you because it's raining heavily here, so I'm not clearly hearing everything anymore.
Apologies on that. So, ladies and gentlemen on call and those who have participated in today's discussion, we have extended it to all this time because we had issues earlier on. So now allow me to invite in Eric and Livingstone to make their final remarks. And these could be general remarks to our entrepreneurs on call and those who are listening in and watching. Your final remarks that are on this theme and this topic, but also the general
What
ones.
I'm going to tell people is this. Yeah, thank you, Gilbert, and thank you for everybody that has tuned in. Yes, Gilbert, I'll make the final remarks so that I'll make two points if I can be heard. One of them is that survive this year. That is critical. Do everything you have to do. Preserve your cash, preserve everything. Reduce your burn rate so that you can have a chance. And lastly, be optimistic. The population is not going anywhere. This market is still here. There are 40 million people in Uganda. There are nearly 9 billion people in the world. They are not going anywhere. So we have a market and we still figure out how to serve them. Thank you and have a great weekend, everybody.
Likewise, thank you.
Thank you so much, Livingstone. Eric?
Yes, I'd like to finish on a hopeful note as well, is that you're surviving the COVID epidemic, and you will survive the COVID epidemic. What the only difference will be, you'll come out differently. You'll come out with a different outlook. You'll come out with a new outlook, new skill sets, new visions because of the condition, and you will survive. You'll just have to adapt and continue, but you can do it. And I do believe as entrepreneurs, you are the future of Uganda. Absolutely.
Awesome. Those are the last remarks that I don't want to repeat. And without further ado, I want to thank you so much, our dear guests, Eric and Livingstone, for giving us this precious time of yours to share your invaluable insights in today's discussion. Most definitely, we shall look out for you again so that you share more of different topics, but of the things that I'm sure you understand much more than we do. Thank you so much, Eric. Thank you so much, Livingstone, for
thank you and your participants. Appreciate it.
Great. And for our participants, thank you so much for tuning in, even with the technicalities that we have had today. Thank you for sticking around, listening in, participating, and all that. We shall definitely be with you again next Friday because we shall have another session of a different theme, but still bring out a number of things that we think can be of very much importance to our businesses and our startups. I want to thank you so much, and on behalf of Miic, Mackay Innovation and Incubation Center, I want to wish you a very good evening and a happy weekend. We meet up next week, next Friday. Thank you so much, and let's keep working hard. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
So much.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you.